What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast. It's Adam here with my guy, Ben, and today's episode is for anyone who feels like they've been trying but not winning. You've put in the work, you've followed the steps, but you're still not seeing results. And it might be messing with your head. Well, you might be thinking, did I miss something? Am I just not cut out for this? We've all been there. But here's what's changed everything for both Ben and myself. Failure isn't the end. It's actually part of the path. And what we're sharing today is a completely different lens to watch this through, a way to reframe failure so it becomes fuel instead of friction. We're also going to be breaking down the valley of despair, what it is, how to survive it, and why your biggest breakthrough usually comes right after this very painful dip. So with all of that being said, let's jump right into it. Welcoming Ben to the show, my trusty sidekick, my co-host. Ben, what is up, brother?
Oh, I'm glad to be back. The Valley of Despair. I can't wait to talk about that. Whew.
Yeah, we did an episode probably about a year ago where we covered a little bit of that. It's actually something that I learned from a mentor and a buddy of mine, Eli,
hmm
who kind of first explained that to me. And I think it's a very inspiring, but also for somebody that maybe is getting a little bit pessimistic, maybe they're going through some really tough times, just understanding it. And after you've understood
Yeah.
it and can kind of see it in action, it really helps kind of push you through those tough times. So,
Yeah, I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because if you're in sales, if you're in real estate, if you are performance based, if you're an entrepreneur, we have all had those moments where we question what we're doing and am I on the right track? Am I doing the right things? You have that self-doubt. Um, we've taken those losses. This has been a really challenging year in the mortgage world. It's been a challenging 2 years, and you just keep going. I think along the same lines is if you have, and that's one thing that I've really changed over the last couple of years. Where if I have the attitude that if I do not give up, I cannot lose. I'm building out a YouTube channel right now. You have some of those same frustrations. That momentum it's here one day and then it's gone the next. And I've had videos that have had 100,000 views, and I've had videos that have had 30 views, but you just keep going. And that's where you have to reframe that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. It's part of the journey. Most people think that success is the opposite of failure, but it's not. Failure is actually a requirement for growth. Ask anyone who's great at anything: business, fitness, sports, relationship. They all say the same thing. I got here by messing up a lot. And then, of course, we have the favorite and the really famous Michael Jordan quote when he said, I failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about learning to use it. There's also the Bill Walsh quote where he says, champions behave like champions before they become champions. They have a winning standard of performance before they become winners. And what that means to me is that you literally have to learn how to be a champion, how to be a winner, how to be successful. And the only way that you can do that is by failing.
mm-hmm. I love that concept of even if you're nowhere near where you want to be, at least still acting like that person in a few years from now, wherever that timeline is, and just
Mm.
seeing how different your perspectives change, your mindset shift, just all of these other kind of things happen in the background that you're not even really aware of or expecting when you implement this. So definitely something worth trying out if you guys haven't before. Um,
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important to surround yourself with such a positive group of friends, peers, a circle of excellence, but then also have those daily personal habits that are in pursuit of excellence. Because when you have excellent daily habits and you go through the adversity and you go through the valley of despair, it gives you some of the tools and skills to be able to overcome those.
mhm. Yeah, so let's just kind of talk a little bit more in depth about this valley of despair. So, the whole point of today's topic is just not about avoiding failure. It's about learning how to use it correctly to help you gain momentum and move forward. And that's where this valley of despair comes in. It's that drop you feel after the excitement wears off, when
Yeah.
reality really punches you in the face. The new business you just launched, maybe the workout plan you're abiding to, that YouTube channel that you just started. You're super pumped at first, everything's awesome. Then it got hard, got real hard, and
Yep.
you weren't seeing those results anymore. And that right there is the valley. And the thing that's really important to understand is 90% of people, that's when they give up, is right there in
Hmm.
that valley of despair. So just to kind of go a little bit more in depth on this, breaking down specifically the valley of despair. When you first start something new, there's that honeymoon phase. And that's actually what we call uninformed optimism. It's that very first stage. And if you're looking at this on like a curve on a graph, that
Hmm.
uninformed optimism, that stage one, that's when it's going up. It's very, positive. You're at a really high point. Everything's going great. You're hyped. This is going to be awesome. And then, like I said a second ago, that's when reality sinks in. That's when it hits. The work gets hard. The results are slow. That's the informed pessimism, which we call the valley of despair. So there's, again, uninformed optimism. You don't know what's ahead of you, but you're optimistic. Now you're informed about what it's going to take, and that creates this level of pessimism or the
Yeah.
valley of despair. And in that moment, like I said, 99% of people, they quit right there. And that's also really important to understand that I think they, I don't know, they say things like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. This is a bad idea. All that self talk, all that negative self talk.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is this valley is normal. It's part of the process. It's part of the emotional cycle of change. And the people who win are the ones that can understand this and keep going through, even through that very difficult dip or that valley of despair.
Yeah, and you're going through that valley, and instead of asking, "Am I cut out for this? Did I make the right decision?" Understanding that this is part of the process. You're walking through this valley, and it's the ability to overcome this. One thing that I have found that has helped me, and when you're building out a YouTube channel, it can be very frustrating, especially if you're focusing on results. I was just sharing a minute ago how I've had videos that have had 10,000 views, 100,000 views, but then lately I've had a lot of videos, 100 views, 70 views, 80 views, and that can be very, very discouraging. And in those moments, I just have to remind myself that I am focusing on the journey. I'm focusing getting better every day. The views or the engagement does not define the success of the video. How I define that is my consistency, the effort that I'm putting in. Of course, I want to be able to get feedback. Why am I not getting the views that I want? So I want to get feedback from that, but learning to reevaluate and not define success based off of the results initially. And then once you learn, the biggest thing for me is just learning how to be consistent and continue to show up. Because if you can continue to show up, be consistent, and get 1% better every time, every video, every sales call, that's where it gets exciting.
Yeah, it's really easy to be optimistic all the time when you're finding that success, when you're having those 10,000, 100,000 view videos, when you have that week or two of the 50 view, 100 view type stuff or whatever, we can apply this to all kinds of different scenarios, but it's tough. That's that value. It's hard to keep pushing through that. And until you've been there, you can't really relate it's just one of those things. You just have to understand the value and the feeling of just accomplishment when you do push through those tough times.
Yeah, let's talk about some other things. What are some other strategies that you can use to get through the valley? So these are some other strategies that I've jotted down that have helped me, not just with YouTube, but mortgage, for example. When you look at 21 compared to 2025, very, very different. Let's talk about some tactical mindset shifts. Failure equals feedback. Every failure has data. Don't waste it, study it, learn from it. A lot of people make the mistake that when they fail, they think that they put that on themselves. I failed. I don't work. I suck. Instead of thinking that way, and that's something that I'm trying to help my kids develop too. It's like, you don't suck. You didn't have a bad idea. It's not you. It's just it didn't work. So that didn't work doesn't mean is not the same as you don't work. Also, celebrate attempts, not just outcomes. If you launched, posted, pitched, celebrate that. That's the momentum. I've shared this before, but my daughter has some really big running goals. And with all of her running goals, we want to be able to have some fun reward for her. But a lot of the running goals that we set, they're not based off of results. They're based off of consistency, showing up, growth in the training, not just the actual times or places. And then also recognize the dip and name it. When you feel like quitting, say it out loud. I'm in the valley of despair right now. When you name it, it reduces its power. It's kind of like facing that demon, that thing that you're afraid of and standing up to it. You know what? I'm going through a difficult time. I'm going through this valley right now. And then guess what? All of a sudden, it's not as big and as formidable.
Yep. Can I add one thing to that one before you share? I think we have one more to share on that one, but about recognizing the dip. When I first learned about this valley of despair with one of my buddies, Eli Schmidt, he's part of the Mile High Property Brothers that I'm connected with some of the real
Hmm.
estate stuff that I do. He talked a lot about his past career as a personal trainer and also competing in some bodybuilding shows back in the day. And for anybody that's ever been in that world and just understands what has to happen to lose weight, especially going up to a show and following your macro and micronutrients so incredibly close, all this stuff that goes into it. But a lot of times you're kind of starving yourself, for lack of better words. You're on a very low calorie diet, and that valley of despair can also be related to there's a certain thing that happens in your brain when it becomes extremely hungry, and it's kind of a fight or flight mode, and it produces this substance called leptin. And
Mm.
when that happens, you basically you feel extremely hungry. It just kind of takes over your body. It's putting all of its energy towards helping itself. But once you push through and don't eat, but you still kind of push through that uncomfortable state of mind, you realize that actually I'm fine, and I've gotten
Hmm.
through that valley of despair. And it's just something that, in a different context here, but once you've done that a few times and you then now understand what that feeling is when that leptin, for example, in your brain is being released, you understand what that feeling is, and then you can actually not
Mm.
enjoy, but you can at least kind of sit in that valley of despair and know that it's temporary, know that you're actually probably in the right place and at the right time, because you know that outside of that valley is nothing but an uphill, progressive, positive path forward. And it's just really important to not quit and realize that that's just an indication that you're getting closer and you're doing, and a lot of times, doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's having a different perspective that then allows you to be a little bit more self-aware of where you're at on your journey.
Hmm.
And when you can acknowledge that, it's like, you know what, I'm going through this. It's been challenging, but that means something. That means I'm on the right track. I'm growing. I'm ready for a breakthrough. Because you can't if you don't go through the valley of despair, you know what it means? It means that you're not in the game.
Yeah.
It means you're on the sidelines.
Yeah, definitely.
Where it's safe. And this was the last point that I wanted to make here. One more tactic that I use: zoom out. Don't judge the journey by the chapter that you're in. Every person you admire has gone through this. The only difference, they didn't quit in the valley. You hear all of these different stories, especially right now with all of the tech and the AI. This person becoming a billionaire. This person, the Alex Harmozis, all these different people that are having incredible success. Why not me? Why can't I do that? We look at them because they're at the top of the mountain. They've achieved incredible success, but that wasn't them a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's having that belief, that vision, and especially don't compare yourself to others on their journey. If I'm comparing my chapter 3 to somebody else's chapter 17, that's going to be really disheartening if I'm doing that. And I think a lot of people do that. Like, well, look at this person. That person's been in the business 15 years longer than you.
Yeah, I'll actually just share a kind of a personal story about that today that happened. You and I were both at this really valuable live event that one of our buddies was putting on, named Gavin Ekstrom, who's another lender here in Denver, Colorado. And he had a couple guys on this panel talking about just becoming developers, going above just their real estate careers to start taking on, new levels. And these were both related to just real estate development. And I was just looking at this guy that's similar age to me. I think he's 45. One of the guys presenting today that Ben and I both are friends with as well. Ben knows him pretty well. And just, he started talking about how he's been doing this for 16 years, you know, working 60, 70 hours a week for a good majority of that time. I mean, that is well beyond the whole idea of 10,000 hours and you're an expert at something. I mean, you can't compare somebody, even if they're a similar age to you, if they've
Yeah.
been doing something completely different that's guiding them further along the path in a certain way. That guy might
Hmm.
have 16 years under his belt with development, but I guarantee there might be other things that maybe we have a little bit more experience with. You just can't look at everybody that's further along the road than you and get jealous or just feel beat down or like it's never going to be the same for you. It's just a matter of that consistency that Ben's talked about a bunch, and we both have on this podcast pretty much every episode.
Yeah, and then learning how to root for other people and not be jealous. There was a quote today that one of them shared that people at the top collaborate, people at the bottom are competitive, and that really connected with me. Where people at the top, they're not trying to outpace each other, they're not trying to outdo each other. They're working together, they're being creative, they're collaborating. It's the people at the bottom who are trying to outdo one another, outperform. And when you have that competitive mindset, instead of being more of a creator or more collaborative, you're only going to get so far. It's
Hmm.
it's all about me. And when you're a collaborator, you're able to share, you're able to give, you're able to receive more.
Yep. Well, let's just kind of close this one out, Ben. You want to recap on what we went over?
Yes, let's do that. And you know, more than likely, you're in a valley in some area of your life right now. All of us are. If you feel like you've failed or fallen behind, just know that this isn't the end. It's the middle. The dip you're in, it's the sign that you're on the right path. Don't tap out, push through. That is where the progress lives.
Yeah, and remember,
Why not me?
yeah, and remember this, you're only that one shot away, but you have to keep shooting. Whether it's business, life, even love, the next win could be right around the corner. So just keep that in mind and stay optimistic and know that that valley of despair is temporary if you are still taking action and making progress in very intentional progress towards getting
Hmm.
better, the pursuit of progress. New episodes every single week, you guys, every Friday on this Pursuit of Progress podcast. If you guys like this one, please share it with a friend. Help us grow the show. And just more than anything else, we'll see you guys next week. Keep working on whatever it is that you're trying to strive to get better at, and just make sure that you're getting 1% better every single day.
And keep on pursuing progress. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.